to be able to just make a choice on your own and just be able to speak for yourself.
This one's wife, Harry, messing with his mind. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. The narcissist has an array of manipulations that can be used against you. The mind games that the narcissist engages in are those which many people find particularly troublesome, frustrating, and upsetting. Often, people believe that the narcissist is knowingly and deliberately engaging in those mind games when in actual fact, with the vast majority of narcissists being unaware, they're not. They're simply seeing the world through a different perspective to you, which means that they can't understand what you're referring to and believe you're the liar, whilst you can't understand what they're referring to and think they are a liar. Thus, you believe that their denials are ridiculous. They believe that their denials are rock solid, and that you are the one that's being ridiculous in insisting that they've done something which they clearly have not. Because their narcissism revises history, deleting events so that their protests are genuine when they state that they haven't done something, you believe that the narcissist knows that they are lying. This isn't helped, of course, by the presentation of the narcissistic smirk. But regularly, people get it wrong in relation to the state of knowledge of the narcissist. This results in mind games indeed being played, but they're not intentional by the vast majority of narcissists. Yes, they're looking to cause a problem with you for the purposes of seeking control and fuel and character traits and residual benefits. But remember, the unaware narcissist doesn't realize that that's why they're doing it. Instead, their narcissism tells them that they're defending themselves against an unwarranted attack by you, or expressing concern in relation to your behaviors, or showing compassion towards you in relation to your vulnerabilities, or pointing out lies that you have told, because your truth becomes the lies that the narcissist hears, and the narcissist's lies are their own truth. And it is this miscommunication, the circular conversations, the bringing up of the past, the future faking, etc., all of which is done by the narcissist who's unaware, believing it to be true and genuine, although of course it isn't. Thus the narcissist will bring up an event from the past, even though that event didn't happen, because they actually believe that it did happen, because their narcissism tells them that that's the case. Similarly, their narcissism tells them that it's appropriate to bring up that matter from the past in order to defend themselves or to make a point towards you, rather than realizing the matter should have been buried dead. Nothing is buried dead with a narcissist. It is also always capable of resurrection. The big advantage with the mind games that are played, of course, is that it's all about the spoken word. Spoken word, of course, is deniable, and that makes it easier for the narcissist to engage in these flights of foot that occur, the mobility that the narcissist evidences in order of the way that the narcissist goes about the prime aims. This leaves you befuddled and confused. You think you know what was said, but you're not quite sure. After all, memory is treacherous. Add in the fact that invariably you're worn down, fatigued, bewildered. You start to doubt your own recollection, and the gaslighting that the narcissist engages in only exacerbates this. You become easier and easier to control as a consequence of the fact that you're not really sure of what the reality is anymore. Is your memory failing? Perhaps you're right. The narcissist, of course, behaves with such conviction that you start to think then maybe they're right and you're wrong. You perhaps start to record events in order to ensure that you have something to which you can refer, because you're sick and tired of your memory being attacked and the fact that you know you're right but the narcissist insists that you're wrong. Furthermore, these mind games don't actually leave any evidence. There's no bruises, no cuts, no scars. But the simple fact that you present to perhaps a third party as a rather overzealous, frazzled, fractious individual, whereas a narcissist invariably presents as being calm. Thus, you're painted as the crazy, and the narcissist gets away with it again. Undoubtedly, this one's wife will be engaging with Harry in such a way. And he's triply susceptible to this. 1, he's not that clever. 2, his emotional thinking will cloud his judgment. And 3, his propensity to engage in the old wacky-backy and other recreational pharmaceuticals will result in further memory impairment, whereby even if he does remember something correctly, this one's wife will triangulate him with his drug use by saying, how can you be expected to remember? You're off your box. Thus, Harry would then start to doubt whether something has occurred, and remember, this one's wife will say it with complete conviction. She will say it in a way that causes him to believe that she's right and he is wrong. Even though he may well doubt it to begin with, years of this behaviour, for he has been in the sustained devaluation for years, will result in her doing this to him again and again and again, so that he ends up doubting his own reality and accepting hers. He will argue with her, undoubtedly. He won't roll over every single time, and particularly because he has those strong narcissistic traits of anger and argumentativeness, he will fight back. But she's relentless in that need to assert control over him. She's relentless in that need to draw fuel from him. And behind closed doors, she will regularly engage in those manipulations, such as bringing up the past, future faking, denial, projection, blame shifting, gaslighting, revision of history, circular conversations, to tie him up in knots. Whilst it may appear that she's doing so deliberately, it's deliberately subconscious activity to get to the prime aims. But she engages in this driven by her narcissism telling her that she's right and he's wrong, that she's been hard done to, and that he's the aggressor, that he's the one that's caused the problem, that she has not. She will undoubtedly have suggested, or may well suggest to Harry, that he needs to go and seek some help. She'll point to evidence of his temper. She'll point to evidence of him forgetting things. It might be a case, perhaps, where something has happened to one of the children, where they were perhaps in a perilous situation, and Harry will be blamed for neglecting the child in that regard, of course, to the extent that they exist. She will suggest that his drug use is out of hand, even though she will, of course, have actively encouraged it at one point, possibly even facilitating it, as is suggested that that's Doria's role in all of this. Harry has admitted to taking drugs in the past, and undoubtedly the case will be making use of them. Certainly some of the pictures have tended to support that he has been taking drugs. She will use that against him, not only in terms of the fact that he is a drug taker at a later juncture, but in the now, by saying to him, how can you be expected to remember? You were on the wacky-backy. You were off your tits on the ganja in the garden. She will use this as a means of suggesting that he's got a problem, that he should seek help, that there's something deficient about him, that she is clear-headed, that she is in control, but it's him that's causing a problem in the relationship. She will do so, of course, by making it appear through false compassion. She may say to him, we need to talk. Well, actually, I need to talk and you need to listen. Sit down. This isn't easy, and I know you're not going to accept what I'm going to say, but you understand that I'm doing this for you, for us. I'm concerned about you. Well, actually, it's not just me. She'll triangulate him with other people, making it up, although she believed it at the time, that other people have expressed concerns. But I'm the one that's noticed more than anybody else. But I guess that's because I'm the one that cares about you the most, Harry, and I'm with you more than anybody else. I'm not the only one, though. My mother has expressed concern about the way that you've behaved, and I felt moved to do something. It's a difficult subject to broach with you because I know you won't accept what I have to tell you, but I've been doing some reading actually in order to help you, so that I can get that help to help you, because after all, it's in your best interests, which I naturally have at heart because I love you. It really troubles me to have to raise this with you, and I've nearly done it a few times before, but I told myself that I had to give you time, Harry, and that you might work things out yourself. You've no idea how hard it is to stand to one side and watch the person that you love behave in this way. I can see that you're confused, and I should come to the point. It's just difficult to have to do this. I've become increasingly concerned at your behaviours. As I say, chiefly I have, but so have my mother and our friends, and even a few people that you work with. It's okay, don't worry, please, don't interrupt me, you need to hear me out. Nobody's judging you. We all want to help you. We want to give you all the support you need. I suppose even now I'm hoping that the light will shine and you will suddenly tell me that you understand and you know that you need help. There. I've said it, Harry. I think you need some help. I can see you don't understand what I mean, and your silence then, when I said that, speaks volumes. I'm going to have to spell it out to you. It's your behaviour towards me and other people. It's not acceptable. You know me. I said I'd always stand by you, and I will, but I can't stand by and do nothing when I see you destroying yourself and our relationship. I can tell you're struggling. We all can. I'm not really sure what's behind it. I think you're traumatised, and after all, I'm not a doctor, but I have been doing some reading and I've spoken to other people, and I guess you must be losing your mind or having some kind of breakdown, or maybe it's the drugs. I know by you shaking your head that this isn't sinking in, so I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to give you the brutal truth. I had hoped that this wouldn't be necessary, that you'd work with me on this. You know, a partnership to save what we have. But the books did say that you'd probably not be able to recognise what's happening to you, that apparently is one of the first things that goes when your mental health is affected. You can't see the problem yourself, and that's why you keep doing as you do. It's not your fault. Well, it is, because you're the one that's doing it, but it isn't because I'm sure you don't mean for these things to happen. I know deep down you're a good person. I've seen that. And what has been happening recently must be a consequence of some kind of stress or something. I know the drinking and the drugs don't help. There's no good narrowing your eyes and shaking your head when I mention that. I see how much you drink, and I know how much weed you've been buying. How many times have you asked me where your car keys are or where the remote control for the television is? Numerous times. They're always in the same place. Always. This house is kept immaculately tidy, yet you're asking me where something is when it's always in the same place. I'd imagine that might be a bit frightening, but don't worry, I am going to look after you. It's just that, obviously, this is what happens because of what you've been doing, the drugs that you've been taking. It's affecting your mind, Harry. So it's words such as these that this one's wife would be issuing towards him. False compassion, supposed support, blame shifting, plenty of projection, suggesting that it's him that's with the problem. And all of this will mess with his mind because she will have indulged in some of the things that he has done, but she'll use it against him. And he, probably as a coping mechanism to deal with the devaluation, has had a greater reliance upon his drug taking and alcohol in order to have a place where he can feel safe, that he gets some kind of relief from the sustained devaluation. And the problem is, she devalues him, he takes more of the drugs, he drinks more in order to alleviate the impact of her devaluation on him, and then she uses it against him. She partakes less, he partakes more. She points out that that's what's causing the problem, that is affecting his mental health, is making him argumentative, stroppy, withdrawn. He's not helping out with the children as much. He's not being supportive with regard to her ventures. Even if he is, it will be thrown in his face and suggested that he's not. All of this enables her, subconsciously of course, to mess with his mind. What she thinks she's doing is helping him, because her narcissism causes her to believe that he's the problem, that he's the one that's losing it, that he's the one that's being affected by his alcohol and drug intake, and whatever else it might be. Some stress that has occurred, perhaps the trauma as a consequence of the loss of his mother. It'll be thrown in his face and used against him. And whilst on the face of it, as a mid-range narcissist, she will give the impression that she cares and she's wanting to help, she's actually using it, quite simply, to control him. By distorting his memory, which of course is exacerbated by his own inability to recall as a consequence of the use of drugs and alcohol and his emotional thinking, he will start to accept what she has to say, that she will suggest that he's the one that needs help, that he is the one that has got the problem and not her. And the more that it goes on, the more that she's going to cause him to believe that that's the case, until such time as he then perhaps seeks help, which of course could then be used against him in future proceedings vis-a-vis divorce or the children, to the extent that they exist. The words that I've described there are similar to the ones that she might use against him, appearing to care, appearing to be compassionate, but all she's doing is grinding him down. All she's doing is continuing to control him. Her narcissism compels her to mess with his mind, as many narcissists do, because it's such an effective way of getting to the prime aims. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.